So was everyone here at yesterday's class for the 4 models? Good,
Yeah.
good. No, today we're going to be going over my favorite model, the economic model. So all right, we'll give it another couple of minutes. I still see a couple of people popping in. Okay. Now, I believe we were supposed to have another instructor besides myself here. I'm not quite sure who that was going to be. So if any of the faces that I'm staring at, the other instructor, please let me know. Not that I would have a problem talking for the whole class, but I can feel my wife's head shaking right now going, oh. He's doing something wrong. He's doing something he's not supposed to be doing, or saying something he's not supposed to be saying. Okay, so we're going to get started. I have respect for everyone's time and schedule, so we want to get started. We may have the other instructor pop in, and if so, then we'll be going back and forth talking about this model. But until then, I'm going to take on the class. Just a quick introduction. My name is George Gattini. I'm the Market Center Tech Trainer for Keller Williams Evolution. We're located in Beverly, Reading, Revere, Topsfield, and Newburyport. I've been a licensed realtor for 17 years, and the last 8 with Keller Williams. I'm still a practicing agent. I've been in leadership for the last 2 years. And they've asked me today to go over and teach the MREA economic model. Now, I'm assuming that most of you were at yesterday's meeting. And before I get going, if it's possible, if people could turn on their cameras. I know we're a little shy, but it just makes it a little easier when they're teaching a class to see faces instead of squares, and that way I can look at people's acknowledgement when at least they're nodding their heads. So if you feel daring, if you could open up and turn your cameras on, that would be great. I'd appreciate that. Thank you, Donna. All right, so just a raise of hands, either digital hand or hands on the screen. How many attended yesterday's class on the 4 models? Okay. So what were some ahas, some revelations that you had in yesterday's class about the 4 models, or about models in general? Thoughts, things you'd like to share with the rest of the group. And we all know what AHA stands for, right? AHA, agents helping agents. So some of your AHAs will be helpful to the other agents that are watching too, because they may not have caught something, and your observation will be helpful to them. So do we have anyone who?
You need to know what your numbers are.
You need to know what your numbers are, correct. Good job, Karina. What else? How do people feel about actually having models to help them with their business instead of having to reinvent the wheel? The wheel is already there. Just following the model, and a model that works, may I add. You know, I never want to reinvent the wheel. I want to take and put some nice spinny hubs on there, or maybe, you know, clean it up a little bit, make it look nice, but I don't want to reinvent it. I want the smarter people to already invent it, and I just want to use what they're doing. So you went over 4 different models yesterday on your business and how to grow your business and run your business, that you don't have to think about and add it yourself. You can just follow their models. And the one we're going to go over today is the economic model. Now, has everyone read the few pages for the economic model for today? Gone over the chart, got familiar with some of the terms we're going to talk about regarding the economic model? All right. Question about the economic model. What are your thoughts about that? How it applies to your business? Something when you were going through it, how did it make you feel when you were going over the economic model more in detail? Thoughts, questions about it as it applies to your business?
You have to be clear where your money's going, what you're doing with it.
Right, very good. Where is your money going? What else? What about how it applies to your goals for the year? Well, one of the things about your goals is people tend to create goals based on how many units I want to sell. And that's a goal, but what does that do for you financially? It's kind of unclear, as opposed to setting a goal based on how much you want to net. That's more practical. That's how much you're going to be taking home, or right before taxes. That's going to have more of an effect on your life, your business, your family, how you're going to do things, as opposed to, I want to sell 20 units. But what does that mean, 20 units? Any other thoughts or comments about the economic model as far as what you read in preparation for today? Okay, so we're going to go over that, and I have a couple of examples of this. Just keep in mind the 3 keys of the economic model you want to focus on is you want to focus on your numbers, as Karina mentioned. You want to focus on your appointments, and you want to focus on your conversion rates. Now we're going to go over this. I got a nice Excel spreadsheet put together that'll walk through the economic model. We can play around with it a little bit, so you can see and get an idea of how this works and how this will help you prepare what you need to do for this year and for next year. Now, behind me, I have my contact information. So if anyone has any questions after the class, but depending on what market center you're in and the size of your market centers, you may have team leaders, assistant team leaders, you may have your own market center tech trainer, a productivity coach. They are all trained and familiar with the economic model. And I don't know if you knew, but Command also has a feature for you to track your goals. So the information that you can put together in the economic model, you can transfer that over into the goals feature of Command and be able to track that in real time through your opportunities. And these are things that your leadership will be more than happy to go into more detail with you, because a lot of people don't realize that there's a goal feature there that will actually help you track it once you get these numbers. And they will be happy to sit down with you. I'm telling you, if you called them and said, hey, I'd like to go down and I'd like to sit down and go over the economic model and be able to put this information into the goals feature of Command, they're probably going to fall off their chair because people don't make that call. So you just made their day. Because I know when my agents call me for this, I'm doing backflips. And just to paint the picture, I'm 6'2", 300 pounds. So backflips in my office are, you know, I get pretty excited. So it's a great tool to use, and there's plenty of support and help for you to go into this more detail after this class. So what I'm going to do is, well, let me just check here in the chat. I'm sorry, this was jumping back and forth. All right. So Eric, you were mentioning you haven't done a good job in the past to have true ratios to project forward. So your conversion rates. Yep. A lot of people you don't think about it until now in this class, and I'm going to show you how you can start doing that and moving forward. Diane, you need a pathway to be able to reach your goals. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what the economic model will do. It'll help you show. It's going to take a big number and chip it down into small, manageable bites. Very similar to that book, How Do I Eat an Elephant? One bite at a time, slowly. So this is going to show you how to walk right through this. I will be going back and forth and looking at the chat. So if I have my model up and I'm not answering the questions in chat, just feel free to unmute and ask the question, because I may not be able to see that. And I encourage participation in questions while I'm doing it, so I can answer the questions for you. So let me get going with this. So this is an Excel spreadsheet I put together for the economic model. Now this is on page 131 in your book, figure 7. I took this and put it into an Excel spreadsheet. So it made it easier for me to sit down with my agents in the ALC to go over their models and goals and to be able to set up the numbers so it can be adjusted. But some of the information that you need to have together will be your conversion rates. How do you convert your leads? So for instance, when you make a call to set up an appointment and you go out on that appointment, what percentage of the time do they sign a contract with you, either a buyer agreement or a listing agreement? And then from that point, what percentage of the time do you close on a property, whether it's a buyer side or a seller side? This information is important to be able to put together an economic model so you know exactly how many calls, how many appointments you need on each side. And a lot of us don't track this regularly. It's easy to come up and look at deals at the end of the year and pull up what we've sold. But that's only what we sold. Finding out the ones that all the appointments we went on or the conversations we had that they didn't end up signing, or they signed a contract, but it didn't sell. So these conversion rates are important to start tracking. And one of the ways to track these is through opportunities. A lot of people just create an opportunity when they actually have a signed contract, but an opportunity is supposed to be created the minute you have any sort of conversation with someone who's expressed the slightest interest in either buying or selling with you. That opportunity should be created right there, and you're dating it as far as when you had that conversation. And then you start putting in the other dates. When did you schedule an appointment to talk to them? When did you have that appointment? And at some point, if it stops and they don't go any further, they don't sign a contract, or they sign a contract and they didn't end up closing, that's all part of your conversion ratio. Because now you can go back and pull up all of your opportunities at the end of the year and see where they all are and get your exact conversion rates on everything. So that's why opportunities are important. And to learn more about that, reach out to leadership, and they'll be able to go into more detail with you on where all those dates go and the importance of filling that out. But that's how you track your conversion rate. You don't need to be writing it and creating a separate pad and keeping track of it on a separate spreadsheet. Opportunities will do that for you. And that's why all those dates and opportunities are important. So for now, we're going to use what the MREA book uses as a standard conversion rate. So on the sell side, they give you an 80% conversion rate from appointments to contracts and a 65% close. And on the buy side, it's the opposite. So these are standard numbers we're going to use if you don't have your numbers. But keep in mind, this is a seller's market. So you can actually think about in the last couple of years, how many of your listings that you listed sold? Well, if they all have, that's 100%. So you can adjust these numbers. So you may not have tracked all of this, but some of it you can figure out. How many of the people that you signed a listing agreement with did you actually list their property? So if it's 100%, now you know what those numbers are. And your conversion rates will change based on the market. So if you went back 7, 8 years ago to pull up your conversion rate, it's going to be different, whether it's a seller's market or a buyer's market. So you want to make sure you're using your conversion rate for the right market that you have. Any questions on conversion rate so far before I move on? Everyone understands the importance of them and how to track them and using opportunities move forward to track them. All right, good. The other number you need to know is how much of your business is buyer side and seller side. Well, that's a little easy to do because you can just pull up your sales at the end of the year and just see which ones are your listings and which ones were buyers. And that's important too. If you don't know, if you're a newer agent, because depending on where you are in your business, your numbers are going to change. If you're a brand new agent, you're not going to have any numbers. If you've been a couple of years and you haven't done a lot of sales, again, your numbers may not be accurate. If you've been here for 10 years, you probably have a really good idea of your numbers. If you know what your numbers are, you want to use your numbers. But if you're not quite sure, you can use the standard that they have for MREA to start your business, to at least give you a footprint of where you need to go. And then you can adjust it as you move on. So for here, we're going to use a 50-50 split for your seller and buyer side. That's what MREA would recommend. If you don't have anyone, you start with a 50-50, half buyers, half sellers. The other number you need to get is your average commission. Now, we all know that when we have listings, average commission is typically higher as opposed to when you're a buyer. So you can break it out separately, or you can average them all together, which is a lot easier here. Average them all together. And in this case here, you're going to put the number, you would put it right in here where it says your average commission. And there's a spot on figure 7 on page 131. And if anyone would like a copy of this Excel spreadsheet, which I'm seeing heads starting to bob and nod, yes. My contact information is here behind me. Just feel free to send me an email and I will send you a copy of this, an Excel spreadsheet of this, and you can use it yourself to figure out what your numbers are. So the first thing we want to do is we want to establish a goal for the year. That's your net income. That's after your expenses, but before taxes. This is how you set a goal. So we're going to use the example of $100,000 as your net income. Now, the next two that we talked about and that you read yesterday and today, they talk about expenses, your operating expenses and your cost of sale expenses. Now, let's talk about the cost of sale expenses first. On page 157 in your book, there's a great example and a definition of cost of sales, and I'm going to read it. Cost of sales includes company desk fees or splits, commissions or salaries paid to buyer or seller agents helping you in business, royalties, and referral fees. So again, depending on where you are in your business, how big you are, if you're a solo agent, if you're on a team, if you're a rainmaker, your cost of sales is going to vary. If you're a solo agent, your cost of sales will actually be, if you're the only one working in your business, your cost of sales will actually be a fixed number. It's typically your cap and your royalty. That's it. And if you do a referral, if you refer out to someone, that referral fee is a cost of sales as well. But for most people, it's just your cap and your royalty. So I have it in here. I put in here a $24,000 cost of sales. Now, what you're going to notice here is you see percentages here, 30%, 30%. This is a high end point, meaning your operating expenses and your cost of sales, each one separately, should not be more than 30% of your gross commission. Now, trust me, I know agents who are grossing $700,000 in GCI, and they're not taking home anywhere near what they should be because their expenses are through the roof. So you lead with revenue, one of our founding beliefs. So just as a rule of thumb, you want to make sure that your numbers, the cost of sales, not so much. That usually is where it should be unless you start growing as a team and bringing people on. But it's your operating expenses that can get out of control. If your operating expenses are more than 30% of what your gross commission is, you need to look at, well, either increasing your sales without increasing your expenses or reducing your expenses. This is just a rule of thumb so that you can grow a business and sustain it and also be able to take home a good portion of your pay to be able to live the life worth living. So for this example, I'm putting an operating expense of $10,000. And that's easy to find. You just pull up your taxes if you've itemized for last year, or you're keeping track of it in whatever software you might be using to see what your real estate expenses are. So you just put that into here. Your cost of sales are in here. And again, this is an Excel spreadsheet. So I actually have the formulas in here, and it will add it up and give you a total GCI number of 134,000. So for me to net $100,000 with these as my expenses, I need to earn $134,000 as a GCI. Does everyone follow that? Any questions before I move on regarding expenses and the cost of sales? Okay. Now you got to come down here and you got to come up and you're going to put in your average commission amount. And again, you just take that number, you pull up your sales over the last couple of years. Again, you don't want to go too much further. You want to stay within this market that we're in right now and figure out what your average commission amount is and add that right into here. And then what that's going to do is we're going to divide 134,000 by 10,000. And that gives me 13.4 units. Now, obviously we can't sell 0.4, but I like to see the decimals and I always like to round up to get me to where I need to go. If it just said 13 and it's 13.4, you'll actually fall short. You actually need the 14th one. So that's why I like the decimal point there. So I know, okay, I need 14 sales. So look at what we just did. You already said, I want to make $100,000 net. That's pretty scary. That's a big number. How do I get there? And already based on a couple of numbers, you know that you only have to have 13 closings. Now, I know what I just said, only 13. Depending on where we are in our businesses, 13 could be a piece of cake. 13 can be very overwhelming depending on what your previous sales are and where you are, especially if you're part-time or brand new. But at least it gives you a number to know what I have to go after to get $100,000. So now that $100,000 doesn't look so scary. It's not that far away. So that's how many units we need to sell. And remember, this isn't a year. This is an entire year. So 13 closings in a year. So now we have to divide that between buyer side and the seller side. How many listings, how many buyer sides do I need each? What are my numbers? So again, if you don't have any numbers, then using 50-50 will be a good start base to get some sort of establishment going and getting yourself used to the system. But if you're established and you're doing sales and you know what your numbers are, come on in here and change them. So let's just say for a listing, because everyone wants to be in a listing side, say it was 70% sales as a seller and 30% as a buyer. Now you saw the numbers all start changing. So what that does is out of the 13.4 units, which is actually 14. So you can easily come back in here, even though it's a formula, you can come into that block and actually just change it to 14. Now it's saying that 70% of that 14 has to be listings, and that's 9.8, or as we would say, 10. And the same with here, 30% for the buyer side is 4.2. So you could keep that at 4 because it said it's a total of 14. So now you know you have to have 10 listings and 4 buyer sales. Okay, well, that's not so scary. It's breaking it down a little better now. So now I have a better idea. So if I just have 9 listings close and 4 buyer sides close, I'm going to net $100,000. It's not so scary. And you know what? It gets even better. This is where it's important to have your conversion rates. So if you don't have your conversion rates for sold and appointments, then you can use 65% and then 80%. And then on the buyer side, it's reversed, 80% and 65%. But if you have any sort of idea of your numbers, you definitely want to use them, because especially in the seller's market today, a 65% close conversion rate is low. I mean, everything is selling. So I'm pretty sure that people would have a better closing rate. So let's just put in here, just to show, being realistic, let's just say a 95% closing rate from my seller side. Now my buyer side, that's kind of tough. We're in a seller's market, so I'm going to put in 65% of my buyers who are under contract with me, or not on contract, but who have signed a buyer agreement, have closed. All right, so now based on that, it's showing you that on the seller side, and I'm just going to change these numbers, it's easy to see as a whole number. So for me to get 10 listings, and because I sell 95% of my listings, I need to take 11. I have to have 11 listings. Because I sell 95% of them, which will give me my 10. So that tells me I need to have 11 listings for the year. And on this side, the same thing. It's telling me I need to have 6 buyer agreements, working with 6 buyers under contract at a 65% conversion rate to give me the 4 that I need to close. Okay, so that's a little better. So I need to get 6 buyers and 11 listings for this year. All right, now we're going to come down to the appointment conversion rate. Oh, before I go on, any questions about where we are to this point? All right. Does this Excel spreadsheet help with visualizing it and seeing what it is? Okay, good. It's not so scary once you start doing it. And I highlighted the certain fields in yellow. Those are fixed fields. Those are your conversion rates down here. It's your production percentage of buyer to seller. It's your average commission, and it's your net income. So basically those yellow fields are the ones that you have to go out and research. Obviously your expenses are as well too, but you can look those up. But these are the ones you have to go and figure out which ones apply to you. So over here on the seller side, you will convert, when you have an appointment, 80%, you convert 80% of your appointments to listings. So in order to do that, you need to go on, this 13.8, we're going to go to 14. You need to go on 14 listing appointments a year. You're going to close 80, you're going to turn 80% of those into listings. You're going to sell 95% of them, and you're going to get 10 closings a year in your listings. So to get $100,000 net income, you already know half of the game that you need to go on 14 listing appointments. Because if your conversion rates are correct, that's going to bring you to where you are. 14 a year. And I broke this down a little further into the green. It gets kind of silly when you get this small, but 1.2 appointments a month. So just say 2 appointments, listing appointments a month. Now on the other side, the buyer side, same thing. We're going to keep this at 9 just for the numbers. So because you convert 65% of your buyer appointments or your buyer consultation appointments that you go on, For you to get 6 that sign their agreement with you, you need to go on 9. 9 buyer appointments a year for this year that you're in. So if you add these all up together, that's 25 appointments that you need to make for that year. 2 a month. 2 a month with your conversion rates to make $100,000 net. Now, again, this will all vary depending on your rates and depending on your conversion rates and depending on your average commission. It'll adjust everything a little bit. But it breaks it right down pretty simple and easy for you to see what you need to do for the year. And then you can take this information, the conversion rates, and you can go over into the goal section of command, and you can add these in. There's a conversion rate system over there too that you put in this information as well, and it'll come up with the same numbers, and you'll be able to track that in command. Any questions about anything we just went over now? What are your thoughts now about the economic model? Any sorts of insight or observations or ahas after going over this?
Once you break everything down, it just seems so much, not easier, but it feels so much doable. But you have to know your numbers to get it right.
Thank you, Karina. Absolutely. It's not so scary, is it? $100,000 net doesn't seem that impossible anymore, does it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, $500,000 net. Let me just change that for a second. Okay. So now if you want to do 500,000, same formula, breaks it right down, 53 closings. Based on your, and then I changed these numbers so the formulas aren't in there. But it would break it all down here as well too, to see where your numbers are. So you would know, and if that was your goal, and looking at the numbers of deals you would have to do, at some point, you may say, I can't do that by myself. I need to start leveraging people, because clearly you've leveraged our systems to the max. You're leveraging command and opportunities. You're leveraging all of the systems that we provide to do this as a solo agent. You may even be using a transaction coordinator virtually or within your market center, just on a case-by-case basis, just to help you get a few more deals. But now you're hitting that glass ceiling. You can't go any higher. You just can't do it. You're only one person. Well, this is where you start thinking about hiring a full-time admin or a showing agent. See, a lot of people think they have to start hiring full agents to do all the work. Not necessarily. The models in the MREA book talk about your first hire should be an admin, not a buyer's agent. With an admin taking care of a lot of this stuff that you're taking care of, the paperwork, the writing up the contracts, and a lot of this stuff, your marketing, that frees up a lot of your time to be able to do some more deals. But even then, you're going to hit another ceiling. And then you hire a buyer's agent just to show properties. And again, in the book, it walks you through all of that, how to take it to the next level. Now, with a buyer agent showing properties, your cost of sales will go up, but so won't your net income. So this model will help you get to those levels. And at some point, you may get to a point where you're like, I cannot do this by myself. I need to leverage people. Now I need to expand. Either expand or stay here and be happy. So now it's telling you what you need to do and how to get there. It's putting it out in front of you. So this can be used in a lot of ways to know where you need to go and how to get there. Questions, comments? I know, Karina, you had a good observation there. Anyone else, any observations or any questions? What are your thoughts now after seeing this? I know you read it in the book, and I've read this book about 6 times. And I know the first time I read it, what I was thinking when I read this part, but now that you see it in action here, what are your thoughts? Any feedback? Anyone have any thoughts on this? Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, I think it's terrific, George. I think it was as Karina said, it breaks it down into like doable pieces is basically it, just doable pieces, taking a day at a time, a week at a time, a month at a time. I think it's very, very good.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mary. It's not so scary anymore. Now it gives you a focus on where your business is going to be. I want to read something from one of the pages in the book and when it talks about conversion rates, because it's important to keep this in mind. This is on page 180 in your MREA book. Conversion rates may vary depending on a number of factors and conditions. The effectiveness of your presentation, the quality of your leads, the consistency of your follow-up, the market that you're in. These are all things that will come into play regarding your conversion rates. Great example, we're in a seller's market. So your conversion rate will be different as opposed to your buyers. So something like that will have a big effect on where we are. Let me just check in the chat room here. Oh, okay, Rose, I see you're looking for my email address, but thanks, Michelle, for putting it in there for everyone. I appreciate that. Darlene, very helpful and easy to reach when broken down like that. Yep, absolutely. It makes it a lot easier. And that's why I put it into Excel spreadsheet so that it does all the heavy lifting for you as well. So again, if you'd like a copy of this, please let me know. And I'll be happy to send this Excel spreadsheet out to you so that you can use to help that. And I do strongly advise that you reach out to your own leadership as well and talk to them about sitting down and going over this. And more importantly, how to put this information into your command and goal setting. Actually, let me just check here for a second. You know what? I think we covered everything we were supposed to cover. I just want to make sure, actually, if people have time, we have another like 25 minutes. I can actually show people the goal area in command. But before I do that, I just want to make sure everyone was comfortable. We talked about the sales, the expenses not to exceed 30%. So that way you can keep a track to make sure you're not going overboard. Working on your average commission so that some of these things take a little work to add them all up. In your conversion rates, if you don't have them, 80-65 and 65-80. When I send you this, I'm going to reset all of the formulas and I'll make sure all of the conversion rates and everything are according to MREA. And then you can start making any changes that you want. I would recommend that if you're going to start changing it, copy it and make changes to the one you copied. That way you can keep the original in case you need to go back and change something, or you're clicking it and you're changing it and the formula goes away. Well, that's okay. If you have your numbers set for this year, that's okay. You don't need these numbers to change automatically. That's set for the year. But when you do the next year, you go back to the original and all the formulas are back there. So you just label them accordingly, create a folder and just say, you know, economic model 2022, 2023, and then you create one called master. And that's the one you don't touch, the one you don't change. You just copy that and then keep changing the other ones. That way, all the formulas will keep working and you can adjust each one each year. Or if for some reason in the middle of a year, you're just killing it. You are killing it. You're like, you know what? I'm going to crush this $100,000 or $200,000 net income. I want to push myself a little higher. Well, then you can just copy that original one again and just put in new numbers. and give yourself new ideas. So you always want to save this original and keep the original with all the original formulas in that I'll send. And like I said, if you want to just email me and I'll just respond to the emails that I receive and send out this Excel sheet. All right, so I'm going to close out here and I'm in command now. So if you go into command and you come over here to reports. Come on.
I'm not seeing that we're in your screen.
Oh, okay, it changed out. Hold on. Thank you. How's that? Good, okay. So you're in your reports app over here. Come up to the top where it says goals. Out of curiosity, how many people have ever gone into the reports app or even to this goal section? Anybody? No. All right. Yeah, it's the best kept secret. So I'm just going to move everyone's faces all over the place. Let's see. Okay. So from here, you go up to goals and you click goal settings. And once the page loads, you click get started. And it's going to bring you in to setting your goals. And it's basically going to walk you through exactly what we just did with the economic model. It's going to ask you what your annual profit goal is. That's the equivalent of your net income that we just talked about. Expenses, cost of sales. You can choose percentages or a fixed amount. I go to fixed amount. And you would put in at this point, as I said, off of the other one, 24,000, and here, whatever it would be, 10,000. Come down to your business makeup, your listings versus buyers. Okay, 70, 30. If you do leases, you can add leases too. If you do rentals. Average commission per unit. Here it actually breaks it down for each side, which is actually even better. Because we all know that your commission for listings typically are higher than your buyer side. So say for this one, it's, oh, yeah, I wish it was, that would be a nice number. If mine was 120,000, I wouldn't be teaching this class. I would be, but it'd be on my yacht. So 12,000 for listings, 10,000 for buyers. Then come and hit next. So that's why it's good to do the economic model first, because you're going to get all this information, do all the heavy lifting, do all the calculations. So now you're in here and you're looking at your conversion rates. So they already give you numbers in here according to the MREA book. So if you don't have conversion rates, you can use these. But if you do, take a moment and go through and upload your conversion rate. So, and these are all together. So they don't break these down as they did in the economic model. These are the conversion rates for everything in general. So it would be an average. So under contract or pending units, what is your percentage that you close? Same with your agreements to under contracts. Then from under contracts, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Leads to contact. So everyone knows what a lead is, right? A lead is someone that you have not spoken to. So Facebook post, you do a paid Facebook post. People pop into your command. They have the big L next to their name. Those are leads. Those are leads because you have not spoken to them. The minute you follow up with them and connect with them, have any sort of conversation with them, they're no longer a lead, they're a contact. So you need to change that. You need to take the lead designation off them, and now they become a contact. That is part of your conversion rate tracking. converting of leads to contacts. So that's why it's so important not to leave that L on them. The minute you have that conversation, you change it to a contact, you remove that L. Then from contacts to appointments. What is your conversion to have contacts in your database to schedule to appointments being set? And then from your appointments being set, appointments kept. And that's in your opportunities. It'll ask you, when did you set the appointment? Well, I set it today. When is the appointment for? The appointment's for tomorrow. And then did you keep the appointment? Did you go on it? Yes, it's asking for those dates because it's tracking your conversion rate. Appointments kept to agreements. So if you went out on an appointment, a listing appointment, I got a buyer consultation in your office. How many of those signed contracts? That's the percentage. Then from those contracts, how many of them go under agreement? Whether it's a listing or working with a buyer. And then from under contract to close. So very similar to the economic model, your conversion rates. And you notice that they're all in here too. As you change these numbers over here, these will change and become your conversion rates. So just like the economic model, you're taking that information and putting it into here. Once you do that, you come to the bottom, save and continue. Now you'll see here, it's my, for this example, we're looking at a $50,000 net. I have a $24,000 cost of sales and a $10,000 operating expense. And you can see here the percentages right next to it. Remember how we're saying you want to keep it under 30%? So it gives you the percentage right there. So from here, you click what's next, and then view my goals. Give it a chance to update and load up. Just move the pictures. So any questions so far before I go into the reporting here about what we just went through as far as how to set the goals? And remember, you don't have to remember if you're not familiar with it. You can absolutely schedule a time with any of your leadership at your market centers, and they'll be more than happy to go through all of this with you and walk you through it, especially if you have a market center tech trainer or an assistant team leader. This is what they live for, to go over this with their agents and show them how to use this. So before I continue, any questions?
I have a question, please.
Yes.
So this is the first time that I've actually pulled all this up with the goal setting, and I've got it on another screen looking at it. But basically, is this the same thing that we were doing before, like in the 411 and all of that and doing it? It's just now it's all in here and it's the same thing and it's tied into all of our numbers?
Yes. So
Okay.
tracking your numbers like you were doing before, yes, with the 411 and the GPS and all of that. Now this is an you actually can add these numbers into command here and actually track them live. And I'm going to show you in a minute how it keeps you up real time, keeps you up to date on what your numbers are and what you're doing based on that. But yes,
Okay.
So now,
Okay.
yeah, you have no idea how many people do not know about this and do not utilize this and not using spreadsheets and, you know, other sorts of tracking mechanisms when it's built right into command.
Well, I've been doing it on the 411 and I would have it done at the beginning of each year and then just try to figure out my numbers and watching it each month and then go into the reports on the KW and, you know, KW and trying to match it all that way. This is the first time I've been in here. I had no idea.
Right.
So it seems like if I set it all up in here, it's just will be accurate all the time.
Yes. Well, it's
Thank
only
you.
as accurate as the information you put in.
I
not
understand.
only is
Yeah, I
your
understand
goals-
that.
Your
Right.
goals are accurate, but this part that I'm going to show you right now is even more important to why you want to keep everything up to date. So thank you, darling. That was a great observation and I appreciate the question.
I got a question regarding leads and obviously we either buy or uncover our own leads, but does it work it backwards? Like you need 4,000 leads in order to convert, to convert them? Will it go backwards or no?
It can. You just have to know what your lead conversion rate is. And that's the biggest trick for a lot of people. That's why if you look down here, it's 5% because it's sadly, it's that low on average. But if you are tracking that, if you know how many you're in leads, so for instance, your opportunities, every time you have a conversation with someone, you're putting that information in, you will know if you're, at what point are you converting all the way, or are you stopping at a certain point? Your actual leads, that's why it's important that when you get the lead into command, if it's coming in automatically, it gets signed that L, so it's a lead. Soon as you have that conversation with them, any conversation with them, they're no longer a lead, they're a contact. So as you change that, it will update your numbers. So your lead numbers will automatically start filling into your contact numbers now, and it tracks that. So yes, you have to get an idea of what your leads percentage is. And again, they give you it as a 5% here for the MREA book, because sadly it is that low, but others may have a higher number. You want to be able to put that number in there, and it will adjust your figures accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So as you can see here, based on the numbers that I put in, it's telling me what I need for the year to hit my $50,000 income, the net income. So I need 8 closed units for the year. I need 8 under agreements for the year because my conversion rate is 100%. I need 8 agreements a year because I have my conversion rate at 100%. Appointments kept. I need 10 appointments for the year to get my 8 agreements, and so on and so on. It backs its way up just like we saw in the economic model. But what you're going to notice is it's going to keep track of where I am year to date as I go forward. And this information comes from your opportunities. This comes from the dates in the opportunity box. So there's like 5 dates in there. As you fill out those dates, this is filling in automatically here, letting you know. And remember, opportunities are already classified as either a listing or a buyer, so they know. So if you have, this gives you the total number, but it already knows how many buyer sides and listing sides you need to get. And if you notice this, it's color coded, listing and buyers. So it's letting you know how much you need to do and how close you are to that side. It keeps track of everything. So for instance, I needed 11 appointments set for the year. I've had 7. You can see that I've had 7 of them. So I know I'm 60% of the way there. Same with here. I need 10 appointments kept. I have 8. I need 8 under agreement, or 8 agreements. I have 3. Under contract and goals closed. So not only do you know what your annual goal is, you will actually know where you are at every point, real time. Within, I would say within a couple of minutes after adding an opportunity or making any changes to an opportunity, this will automatically update, so that you can keep track of where you are and what you're doing. Is this helpful? It's very helpful, and a lot of people are not aware of this. Now, I like looking at it from here, from inside the reports app, hitting goals. But from your dashboard, you can see it from there as well. Oh, that's all right. Can everyone still see my page? Okay, so right down here on the goals, on your dashboard, you'll see a shorter version of what we just saw to give you a quick idea of where you are. But I always like either just clicking goals or going into reports and hitting goals, and I like seeing the full version of it. to be able to see where I am and how I'm working. So now, when you set a goal for the year, no matter what it is, and I was just using numbers, bigger numbers to show you that it's not so scary to be looking to be producing and earning more. It's actually doable and feasible for you to do that if you just follow the models that we have. All right, let me look. I'm going through here to the chat. Okay. All right, this is on. All right, let me just see what this opens up. Diane put a link in there saying this can be found in command. Oh, okay. All right, it just brought me back to command. So can everyone still see my page? Okay. How do we get the activities breakdown? What do you mean, Donna? What activities?
On the chart, that the original chart there, where it showed the funnel with the conversions and the other, there are three
Yeah.
different graphs. And so it's the first one. Yeah, the activities breakdown. You know, it tells you how many contacts you need and how many calls you have to make, how many emails you have to send. All of a sudden, I had that information, and all of a sudden I can't get it anymore, and I don't know exactly what I'm doing not to get it.
You mean in here,
Yes,
this section here? It was filling out for you before and it's not now?
yes.
All right. Do you have a Market Center tech trainer?
I probably do. Yes, I'm sure I do.
Okay. You want to reach out to that person and see why, because it could be a setting, it could be a glitch.
Okay,
You do have to have your activity tracker activated, which is a new feature in command. I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with that. You actually have an activity tracker that you can start going in and adding your activities each day, how many calls you've made, how many appointments you've done. And that will help also with your activities and keeping track of everything to see what you're doing.
Okay.
But you have to go in and you have to activate that first. So again, that's what, if you have a Market Center tech trainer or a team leader or a productivity coach, they're the ones you want to reach out to, and they can sit down with you and walk you through that and how to
Okay.
set it and how to set that up and how to activate it. I've just went through it with a lot of my agents. A lot of people don't even know that's there. It's a relatively new feature.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Great question. So I'm hoping that today's class has showed you some additional tools to make your jobs a lot easier and set goals and stay on top of these goals and attain where you want to be, because it is all about creating a life worth living and a business worth having. And these tools will definitely help you chop down those big goals into small manageable ones, and hopefully at the end of the year or next year you're hitting new goals that you've never had before, because now you're able to use the models and systems that we have to get you there. And if you're excited about just what you learned today, wait for the next 3 classes on the other 3 models of lead gen, budget, and organization. They really help focus and bring your business into perspective and help you grow.
Awesome. Thank you so
Any
much.
questions before we say goodbye? All right, well, I hope you found today's class both helpful and informative. As always, you have my contact information. Please email me if you want me to send you the link. And if you had any other questions, some market centers may not have a tech trainer or may only have a team leader if they're a smaller one. If that's the case and you don't have anyone to reach out to, you can reach out to the regional tech trainer. Every place has a regional tech trainer that covers it, or you can always feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Well, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to meet with me today, and I hope you found it helpful and informative. Good luck with your business.
Good. Thank you, George.
Yeah,
Very
you're
good.
very
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Bye-bye.
You know.